Welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. I've got another interview episode for y'all, and it is a bit different than ones that we've heard before. It is Kelly, and she is a stranger from the internet, which y'all know I love getting emails from strangers on the internet. And I guess just a quick little side note, I am always looking for more people to interview on this podcast. So if you have been on the fence, just go ahead and send me an email and we can talk about it and maybe get something scheduled. Or if you know somebody who might want to tell their story, go ahead and send them my way, info@recoverydemystified.com. And also, if you don't want to be interviewed on this podcast, but you're a stranger from the internet and you just want to send me an email, I love getting emails from strangers on the internet. So holler at me. Also, if we know each other and we're acquaintances or friends or something, you know, I love you too. So just holler at me if you want to tell your story. I'm always looking for more people to do that. Anywho, what makes Kelly's story different than the ones that we've heard before is she talks at length about her experience getting well in drug court, which provided her like a structure and accountability in a way that she hadn't had before. And I found it very interesting to hear someone's like detailed perspective on how all of that can possibly actually be helpful for someone. So if you've had an experience in drug court in Northwest Arkansas, holler at me and let's do a little interview and you can tell your story with that. Anywho, we do talk at length about suicide in this episode, very frankly. So if that's not something you're ready to hear, then please take good care. We also do mention child abuse. So if that is also something you're not ready to listen to right now, this might not be the one for you. It's very brief mentions of that. But anywho, I'm proud of y'all for surviving another week, and I love you, and you're doing a great job. And without further ado, here is my episode with Kelly. Hello, Kelly. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Y'all, we just both had to like brave one of those crazy Fayetteville rainstorms to get here where it's like there's a tornado watch and all the streets are flooding. Like It's a big catastrophe. But we both were like, we got to do this. So.
It's like, I'm going to risk it. Then I was like, regret.
Yeah. But, you know, it's good to show up for stuff. And sometimes it's a little scary out there with the weather in Fayetteville, but we made it to the podcast booth, so I'm super excited.
I feel so alive.
Yes. Would you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kelly Anderson. My pronouns are she, her. I've been here for, 16 years now. I'm from Tulsa. I was in Fayetteville up until like a month ago, really, and I miss it terribly. But I've been, in the music scene, in the restaurant scene for as long as I've been here. And it's been a wild ride. And so I got clean and sober almost 16 months ago.
Damn, hell yeah.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Well, let's get right into it. We're here to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So I guess you can start by talking about what it was like for you to be a little kid, then maybe some of your first encounters with substances and when it got bad, and then how you got into recovery. So just start wherever you'd like.
Awesome. So I was a really happy kid. Even though there was I lived in a really chaotic household, my parents just constantly fought. It was a really angry household, but I never felt unloved or unsafe even really. And I would often I realize now disassociate outside and being very imaginative and I always had all the toys and whatever, it was a really good childhood in that sense. They are devout Christians. It was a really extreme Christian household. My mom might nowadays that my brothers are older, my little brothers, she might have a canned margarita every once in a while. But like drugs, alcohol, it was always like very, very no, and never like why. And my mom's family, they drink, but I never noticed any like behavioral issues. So it wasn't like, I don't know, I just like never saw firsthand what it could do to you. And I definitely wasn't given any education in that sense. But anyways, so like, you know, it was very combative in my household, but also loving and fun. And then my brothers were born and they were both very sick. I was 8 and then 10. So I kind of like, I was like really parentified. Like I had to grow up really fast at a very young age to help take care of my brothers because my dad was like always gone at work. And you know, I could never go to my friends' houses. They could never come over because if the boys were sleeping, you know, we can't disturb them. My middle brother had like heart monitors hooked up to him. So whenever he was sleeping, if the heart monitors went off, we'd have to rush him to the hospital. And then my other brother had like breathing issues. So he was always like having breathing treatments. And like my whole life went from like childhood to like almost like this hypervigilance and like fear. And then like my dad wasn't around very much to help support. And then like while this is going on, I'm going to like Christian private school and like living the straight and narrow and like being like the person that my mom expected me to be. And my dad was also like, it was really bad with my mom, but he was very abusive with us in the sense of like, spare the rod, spoil the child. So like he would beat the crap out of us. Like I got hit with PVC pipe with belts. I would have like welts on my legs and stuff. But like I just thought that was normal. I just thought that's what happened. And so, you know, I didn't realize until I got older. I left Christian private school. I was homeschooled for a little bit. And then in 10th grade, I went to a very big public school. And I met friends and their boyfriends were in older grades. And that's where I really was introduced to like drugs and alcohol for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting about what you were saying about the parentification with your little brothers both being sick. Do you feel like that was something that was asked of you, or do you feel like that was a job that you gave yourself?
It was definitely asked of me. It was expected. If I wasn't there to help, my mom would get really mad at me. Like, it was very well known that I like couldn't like go to friends' houses or have friends come over. I had like neighborhood friends and like we would go out and play, and like thank God for those moments because that really like made my childhood like really, really good. But like it just became my whole life, and it was like really, really hard. And I learned later that parentification of a child of a young age is like really traumatic.
Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility, and it's something that like you can't. I mean, you're way too young to be expected to do that sort of like healthcare work in the first place, and also just like the emotional burden is not something a kid can understand or withstand, really.
Yes, and like as abusive as my dad was in certain ways, it was like I had so much more resentment against my mom, maybe because I was like around her more. Like I had to deep clean the house all the time. Like I had all of these things that I had to do to help her because there was no one there to help. And she was also like dealing with the stresses of my dad's business, which I didn't know until later. And then, their arguments and stuff. So she would take a lot of things out on me. And then there was also like the pitting, like each of my parents would pit me against the other. And that was so hard. And I remember this one time my mom would be like, why do these things stress you out? It's like not even your problem. And I'm like, bitch, you put this on me all the time and I'm so young. And like, I don't know, it was like, I have this like weird, there's like a juxtaposition of like being really happy and then like, but also hiding the sadness, and then also the facade that my mom created, like fake rich, big Christian private school. We have to mind our P's and Q's. We could never tell our family what was going on. So I lived a life of like secrecy almost. And I really like felt bad that I couldn't open up to my family about what was going, or really anyone about what was going on, because that is a huge no-no. And so like living this facade of a life kind of followed me into like my adult years, just trying to exist in a more authentic way, but then like just like these deep like soul crushing things that were like lingering underneath. So
yeah, that's really intense, and it's really interesting, and something I feel like I've heard several people comment on is like what's going on behind closed doors, and then the parents wanting to cover it up for the image or whatever. Like Emily's podcast that just came out today was like exactly what she was talking about, and it like another heavily Christian upbringing type of situation. And I'm just like, how common is this, and why do people think that, like, I don't know, that like hiding abusing your children makes it go away?
Exactly. It's like, oh, but we're Christians, and then I'm like, I have this like argument in my head, like this doesn't feel very Christ love at all.
Yeah.
And so let's see. So I'm in high school and I meet these friends, and it's just the best. I didn't really get into like drinking or like smoking weed very heavily. The first time I drank a beer, I was with my friends, and their mom bought us a 6-pack of like wine coolers, and I had one, and I was like, woo! I like even like fell on the ground. Like I remember feeling really loopy, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I don't know what the deal is with this.
How old were you?
That was 10th grade. So what is that, like 16 maybe?
Like
yeah. And we always hung out with these boys, and they were huge druggies. Like they smoked so much weed. They did ecstasy. I was never into smoking weed because it just kind of made them like stupid and lazy and dumb. But when I would go to like the roll parties, I was like, oh my God, this looks so fun. And I actually did ecstasy before I smoked weed.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Just by like viewing other people's behavior.
I was like, this looks awesome. And then of course, so like I experiment with drugs, and I'm like, what? This is great. This is amazing. It was like so eye-opening. It made me more spiritual because I was like battling, like, here's Christianity and here's my view or like my experience with it, with like these kind of like terrible Christian parents, and that like really didn't live the life in my eyes. And then I kind of break apart from that, and then I'm open to this whole new world of like new people, new experiences, and like these new feelings of honestly like very spiritual experiences, you know, like with ecstasy and then, you know, mushrooms and acid and stuff like that. And I was like, there's a whole world out there that I have never even begun to like experience or open up, and like this way that I've been living my whole life just seems like such like a fraudulent way of living for me personally. Like I don't judge anyone who, you know, agrees with those things. I don't want to be that kind of person for sure. You know, and being religious or spiritual really gives people a lot of hope. So I love that for them.
Yeah, totally. It's just like when you take it to an extent where you're like, having a religion inherently makes me a moral person, therefore I'm not accountable for bad behavior.
Yes.
That's when I'm like, yeah, I got some thoughts about that. You know what I mean?
And then they're like shoving down my throat that I need to have good behavior or I'm going to go to hell. And it's just all fear-based, and it just none of it sat right with me. And so, you know, like I became a party girl, but it wasn't in a coping way. It was like, you know, social. It was with friends. It was definitely kind of like a FU to my parents and like that whole society for sure. I remember when it was like summer 2007, I just graduated, and there was this huge blow up with my mom, and I ran away for a month, and I went balls to the wall, and it was amazing. And so like I finally came back, and I was like, these are my boundaries. Like you guys need to like let up on me, because honestly, when you're so rigid and like strict with your kids, and especially don't teach them educational things about life or, you know, anything like that, like we're gonna rebel. And I went crazy in like maybe like a little more than like normal way for sure.
Yeah, you're like, I finally broke free from this, and getting a taste of the taste of the freedom is like, it's amazing when you've been held back for so long.
For sure. And I honestly, like, I appreciate it so much. I don't regret it at all. And, you know, it's just like the later years that it really took a hold on me, which is so common. Like, it's hard for anyone, it's hard for some people to like keep it at like a normal quote unquote normal dose, you know?
To not take it too far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's see. So I moved to Fayetteville with my high school boyfriend and our best friends, and it was so fun. I'm totally free. I always joked that I was like far away enough from Tulsa that my parents couldn't come looking for me, but I was close enough to visit too.
You're 18?
Yeah. No, let's see. Oh, actually, I went to community college for 2 years, so I was 20.
Okay.
And they all, not all of them, but a lot of them did opiates, and I just saw how bad it hurt them. A lot of them drank like the half gallon or gallons like every single night. So I was pretty good. I never blacked out. I've never been a blacker outer. So, you know, I was definitely like using blow sometimes and drinking a lot, but not. I always thought, you know, oh, well, they're really bad. Like, I'm fine.
You're talking about, like, your new Fayetteville friends?
My new Fayetteville friends, but bringing my high school friends over from that, too. So it was like a combined effort. And, I mean, it's probably not much different than other, like, party college stories. So, let's see. So then... continuing that whole thing, I always like kept a job. I always like paid my bills and stuff. And then a social club became a thing, and we were doing that.
What's that?
Oh, it's where, do you know where Weston Watson is?
Yes.
It's what Weston Watson used to be. Like, and so it was like, you know, bass music and drugs.
I see. Social club.
Yeah, it was so social. And so I was doing that like 3 nights a week, started dating the DJ, and it was the time of my life. But little did I know, like, I was dealing with a lot of like mental issues, but I just thought that was me. And it was a lot of, you know, of course, repressed emotions, repressed things. And I kept trying to get like on medicine, and none of them seemed to work out, you know, of course, because I was like drinking and doing drugs at the same time, so duh.
Yeah, I harp on that so freaking much. I'm like, medical providers, before you prescribe stuff to people, like, figure out what addictive shit is going on.
For sure, definitely. Yeah. And like, I also, like, in high school, I was prescribed Adderall because I was ADHD, and so that was that. I think I had been partying at that time. Anyways, so
did the Adderall work for you as medicine, or was it kind of like when you're on ecstasy and you're like, holy shit?
Oh, it was medicine for sure. And I never abused it. And then, you know, like I'm in college and stuff, and it helped tremendously. And then I got on Vyvanse later, which is much cleaner. But I haven't done that stuff in a long time. That is probably maybe the one thing I really do miss, because I like crave the focus. But I'll get to that later. Yeah.
So you're partying at what do you call it? Social club?
Social club.
Dating the DJ.
Yeah, it was so fun. I was going to festivals. I was going to concerts. Like, you know, living it up, while also like dealing with a lot of like depression and anxiety. And, you know, I didn't realize till later that, of course, it's all correlated, or like, you know, it makes it worse for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that is like probably the trauma from everything you went through as a kid. And then, just the way substances fuck with your neurochemicals.
Oh, for sure. And we're not taught coping mechanisms. I didn't know what anxiety and depression were. Those weren't words back then for me. And, you know, it was just a lot of like, trust in God and He'll help you. Nothing of like substance of like what I could do or to like help myself, you know?
What were you going through that brought you to a mental health provider that was giving you prescriptions? Like, what were you going through?
So definitely like boyfriends, and I realized I was recreating my childhood for sure. And like, I hadn't dealt with any of that. I tried to be the savior all the time, and I stayed way too long in emotionally and verbally abusive relationships because, you know, I love them. Mm-hmm. And of course they have like really good qualities, and I see the good in everyone, like to a fault. I didn't have any boundaries, and it wrecked me. And then, you know, pair that with like partying so much, and it's just like a recipe for disaster. And also, okay, so like being ADHD, like I didn't realize what all of that entailed, like your executive function and like, you know, all of those things that like really made doing life very, very hard. So I always just felt like I was a POS that couldn't do anything. And then, you know, I was really good at partying, and I was good at like making it to work, I guess. But like just the day-to-day things, like straight up just getting out of bed was like really hard. And like that, it like really weighed on me for sure. So I finally like broke up with that boyfriend. I had a few others that were not great. And sorry, that was my water. That sounded really kind of cool.
It did sound kind of cool. So then it just like kind of progressively gets worse and worse and worse. I remember there was a time where I had to go home to Tulsa because I was just bedridden. I think that lasted like a month, you know, and I always had like suicidal ideations. I would never do it, but like, man, I thought about it a lot because I'm a highly like emotional and very, very sensitive. I learned 2 years ago that I'm ADHD, autistic and ADHD. And so like that made a lot of sense. And like, can I just say being diagnosed like helps you like make sense of like your world and like gives you like the information that you need to know about what's going on. So, you know, I'm just like going through life with all of these things that I had no idea why any of it was happening. I was just like, I don't know, I was just like sucking at life. What was keeping you in bed for the month? Was it like being hungover? Was it depression, or like what was going on there?
Definitely depression and just like the world going on. Like I knew all of these things that I was supposed to do because after I broke up with my like the biggest relationship that had affected me. I had gotten pregnant and had an abortion, which I used to like write reports about how that was bad, and like my views about that have changed so much. But it was still really hard, of course. So that was another thing. But like after I had broken up with that relationship, I was on Instagram like and reading like self-help books and like really like self-therapizing myself. And so like I had all of this knowledge of what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know what to do, but I could not do it. Yeah. I couldn't make myself do it. Yeah. And that was debilitating, and everything just seemed way too hard.
Yeah, and that hurts too because you're like, why can't I do the right thing? You're like, put a value judgment on yourself. You're like, I must just fucking suck if I know what to do and I can't do it. But it's 100%. Like, if you got fucking mental health problems from like coming at all angles and you don't understand yourself and you're never taught your emotional skills or whatever, then it's like, yeah, it can be fucking impossible. You can know what to do and just not be able to do it. Yeah. So exactly. And then, you know, it was debilitating. I kind of got out of that. I went back to Faye, and it was still kind of like the same old. And then COVID hit, and I went back home, and I was there for, I guess, 2 years. And I had so much money and no job, and I did all the cocaine. And it was, you know, fun to an extent. Me and my best friend would like craft all the time, and you know, there was no responsibilities. I was able to rest and allow myself to rest, which was huge for me because I'm like now finding out that like transitions are really hard for me. I need to like have time management of my time and my stress and allow myself lots of rest. And before I was just like go because, you know, I was going really fast doing cocaine and Adderall and all the things. And so like I just trying to be like a fake go-getter
and having all these expectations on myself because I was brought up with so many expectations. And then like I just had like a bunch of like freeze, you know, like what is it like?
Give me a hint.
So it's like, you know, your executive function isn't working, and so I guess it is that you're just in a freeze state and you can't.
Oh, analysis paralysis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Exactly that. And so my cocaine use got really, really bad. I would say that like alcohol wasn't my go-to. Like I never had alcohol in the house, but like cocaine was my best friend and alcohol was her best friend, and so we were all best friends. And it became a coping mechanism for me because it was like, I'm living with my parents. I'm back at like the hellhole. Granted, there's more freedom. I'm much older. I was 30 then, but still, it's like I'm just being around my mom constantly. She's type A, and she's very anxious, and she has a very very high up job that demands a lot from her. And so it's still like the expectations on me to like do this and do that. And then we just butt heads a lot because we're so different. And it was a lot, there was a lot of combat during that time. I just like remember we would fight and I would just like throw chairs and stuff. Like it was ridiculous. Like I've always been a very reactive person because I grew up in a reactive household. There wasn't really ever there wasn't any conflict that was like just discourse or like just a regular conversation. It was always immediate blow up.
Wow.
And I definitely took that into my later years, and I was reactive and then like really scared of conflict, and then I wouldn't bring anything up. So I was like quiet until until I like broke. And then I would just absolutely lose it.
That makes sense. It's like the only way of conflict that you ever saw modeled to you as a child. So yeah, if you don't know how to do it healthy, you're just going to do what you know.
Yeah.
What brought you home during COVID? Like, why'd you go back there?
It was just because of COVID, and like I figured I could live with my parents and not have any bills. And
because you're out of work.
Yeah, for sure. And so that fizzled out for sure. And maybe it wasn't 2 years that I was there, because I did move back to Faye with an ex who was my best ex, I will say. Shout out, you know who you are. And he let me live with him for free, and he got me a really good job, but we all did cocaine at the job, even our boss, and it was so amazing.
Was this a restaurant job?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Classic, And so I'm like at this point in life where I'm like, I don't necessarily see a problem with it. Everybody's doing it, and I'm like, why not? I'm a very logic-driven person, but my logic was askewed because, I'm on drugs. And I'm like, you work to get a bag, and then you get a bag to work. It's just like this vicious cycle. And I did know in the back of my head that like something big would have to happen for this to stop. I didn't see a reason why. Another thing that I really took on in my like healing journey when I was self-therapizing was that I need to give myself a lot of grace and not worry about timelines, because I didn't hit any of the timelines that was expected of me or that I expected of myself, and that was another reason I was very depressed. So I very much adopted the live life now, and then take your time, because if you get super depressed about not making it and you're only 30, there's so much more life to go. Honestly, you could completely start over at any time in your life. People do it all the time.
Totally.
So I'm in this fuck it, I'm just gonna make money and do drugs, and I don't really care at this point in time because I am still struggling mentally. I had this thought that if I'm going to be alive, I'm going to be high. And then and this deep hope that would subside in time. But at that time I was just whatever, I'm just going to survive. And there were definitely some suicidal attempts at that time. And it was it was really chaotic, but also like weirdly like a lot of fun because I'm just like faking it. And I would do like blow and drink, especially to like get through like quote unquote social anxiety. Not knowing that caused a lot of social anxiety, and also would make me, stay out till 4, 6, 8 in the morning, and I would overextend myself, and then I'd have to like be in bed for 24 hours after. And so it's just like this lifestyle of like, it's like a cyclical, just constant going around. And I didn't see really a way out or a need to get out at that moment in time. So I eventually moved in to a place by myself, and I became very secluded, celibate for 3 years. I was just like kind of doing blow by myself, and I had like, a couple friends that I would like hang out with. And
what changed there? Like, what went from it being like fun and social to it being by yourself?
I think I was just tired. Like, I was tired of like being the party girl because, at social, like when it was social club days, like we would party all the time. And also I'm like just a very generous and giving person. People would always call me like Mama Kelly or Mama Gel. My friends call me Jelly. And I was always constantly taking care of others so that I didn't necessarily have to take care of myself. So that was like a way that I would feel purpose and happiness, really. And and the boyfriends taking care of boyfriends. It was just always that. And so I think finally once I moved in, and this is my first time living alone, I was just like, okay, it's just me here. Like, this is amazing. All my things are where I want them to be. I don't have other energies coming and like messing up my stuff. So I, did a lot of crafts. I watched a lot of TV. I definitely still kept working and stuff. But like, I still was hurting on the inside.
Did you ever experience like negative repercussions that you associated with partying, or did your brain just kind of make excuses for it? Like, yeah, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like, definitely, I would definitely make excuses. There was one time I went to a festival and I did black out, which was really weird for me. And I was hanging from a trapeze in one of those geometric domes. And I fell on my neck and broke it.
Broke your neck?
Mm-hmm. I broke my 3rd cervical vertebrae, and I woke up the next day like, what happened? And I went to the doctor like a week later because I touched the top of my head and I had lightning bolts go down to from my head to my fingers. And I was like, okay, something is wrong here.
Wow. And your neck hurt. Yeah, your neck hurt.
Also that. But I just thought it was usual head banging hurt.
Yeah.
And he was like, you broke your neck. And I was like, oh my God. So there started to be more things like that. And then there's also the relationship type things with friends and with partners, like me being really reactive. And I just thought that was like who I was. There was always some kind of reasoning for it. Not that I was just mentally out of my mind.
Yeah, so you never had moments of being like, maybe it's the drug.
Yeah, or like maybe I should stop. Like, no. That never happened because like otherwise I was gonna like die. I was gonna kill myself, and so it was kind of like weighing out the options.
Yeah, and when did the suicidal thoughts? Did it happen like when you were like kind of sobering up or coming off drugs, or did it happen while you were on drugs, or is it like all the time?
It was all the time. It was just like this constant weight. And I realized like I felt it when I was younger too. I just didn't really know what it was. And I was always taught to have a facade. So I was always so happy going out. And I was genuinely like when I was out and about, like I wasn't necessarily faking it. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't really faking it. But then when I would go home, I would be like, ugh, and like be able to take my mask off and then like really be sad. And, maybe those were the come down times, honestly. Because, when you're doing drugs with your friends, you're fine-ish.
Ish, yeah. Yeah. I just think like suicidal thoughts and attempts and things like that, it's a scary, triggering thing to talk about, but also I think it's like something that a lot of people experience, especially in drug use and alcoholism and addiction and all of that stuff. And it's just so freaking taboo, but it's so common.
Yeah.
That, I just think it's
It's
important.
like, how do you get out of that?
Yeah.
You know? And so then you use drugs and alcohol to cope, whether you realize it or not. So you're just trying to get away from those feelings, and maybe those are the only times that you feel okay.
Or, like, sometimes for me, I would be so, like, super duper drunk, but not all the way blacked out. And when I was super duper drunk, I would feel suicidal then too. I'd be like, I'm a fucking loser. Here I am again, just fucking wasted, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost like gives reason for things at the same time. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's because it's like, you know, I'm a piece of shit, so I do drugs and I drink, and also I do drugs and drink, so I have a reason for being a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. So
you're living in the house by yourself. Anyways. Glad we didn't kill ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, definitely now for sure. And I still have I do not still have those feelings. I did still have those feelings during that time, but I always knew that it would get better if I just like held on. I always said that hope was a trap, but I still did have hope that it would get better, and if not, then I'm just gonna suffer and be high, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it gets really bad. Like I could never. I tried to like save some blow for the morning, but it's called blow, not save. So you know, there's the logic there.
Oh my goodness, there's no such thing as leftover crack, they say. Yeah. Yes, go on.
And so, you know, I couldn't really stop. And I just was like, something big is going to have to happen. And, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. So I black out, which is very rare for me. And I wake up in jail. And I am just like, what the fuck happened? And I get the lowdown from a girl that was in intake from me. With me, and she was like, girl, you were looking for trapdoors in the air. They had to revive you twice. They like kept yelling at you because you kept getting up. Like you did not know where you were. It was like really scary. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. And it was extra weird too, because I felt great. I felt fine like the next morning. And so I had no idea what really happened. And when my lawyer got like the body cam footage, he was like, you were at Brahms trying to clean the boys' bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, that's so me. Like every party I would always clean the boys' bathroom, like my guy friend's bathroom, because it was so gross. But I'm, you know, look at me being a stand-up citizen. Even when I'm blackout drunk, I'm still
taking care of other people instead of yourself.
Shut up.
We have a pattern.
Put that together. That's so true.
We have a pattern. So yes. When this all went down, what were you on?
So I had a bag of blow. Mm-hmm. I had been taking these Subutex. It's like Suboxone, I think. Mm-hmm. So, and then, I totally forgot. I've been taking kratom for 10 years, but I don't want to necessarily vilify kratom because it can be okay if used properly. You know, I'm all about plant medicine, so I'm going to leave that.
Yeah. What works for some people is really bad for other people.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So were you ever on opioids or just kratom and Suboxone?
Definitely not opioids. I had, I said my friends, when I moved to Fayetteville, were definitely on opiates, and I was like, hell no. And then one time I had, cramps really bad, and my friend gave me some hydros, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe a little as a treat. Mm-hmm. And so I would do it sometimes, but it wasn't like to the extent that like opiate addicts do. But then the first time I got arrested, it was just it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't my fault. Like I had a bag of drugs that I was bringing to a concert, like literally for a friend. Mm-hmm. Like for real though.
It's not my drugs, I swear.
It really wasn't.
They're not mine.
And so I got caught with that, and then I got arrested, and that's when I started doing kratom because it was legal then. Mm-hmm. And shout out Sydney's. And so, because I was on probation, I would do that instead. And honestly, that helped me throughout those 10 years. I think that's really what helped me not become a major cokehead or like do alcohol very much, because I had something to take the edge off that wouldn't really super fuck me up. It was just like kind of like a nice little feeling. I also don't want to romanticize kratom. It can be very dangerous.
Well, you're not going to stop breathing from it like you are with fucking other opiates or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things, can really screw up some people's lives, can really save others. So, I mean, yeah, we're all different from each other. But
yes,
yeah,
definitely.
Hear you on that.
And then, it got to where I was doing kratom and blow and Subutex, and I'm sure there was some concoction that made me black out. I was prescribed clonazepam that I would take sometimes, and I have a feeling that I got too high and honestly I have no idea, and they couldn't drug test me.
Were you drinking too or no?
No. So it's
like drug-induced psychosis is sort of really what that's yelling at me.
That's what I think too. And thank God I didn't kill myself or anyone else, because I clearly got in my car and went to Brahms. For what reason, I have no idea.
To clean the toilet.
I mean, clearly it needed saving. So
goodness.
How scary. But I realized then that I was like, okay, this is it. This was my turning point. I get out of jail, and so my lawyer brings up, he's like, you can do 4 years of probation or you can do drug court. And he's like, it's like a really extensive 15-month program. And he's like, but it would get off your record. And besides it coming off my record, I was like, I want drug court because I need something that's going to work. I need to be held accountable. I need help. For sure.
So that was the first time you were like, oh, the drugs, drugs are what the problem here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's
waking up in jail will do that.
Yeah, it really will. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to stop. I'm in my 30s, grow up. I was always really scared to grow up because that meant I had to do a lot of work. And and I had been knowing all the work I had to do. And I think maybe that was part of the reason why. A little bit of the reason why I couldn't do it, because I knew how much work it was actually going to take. So he's like, so it's within maybe a year and a half, or it was a year and a half until I started drug court, and I went off my rocker. It was daily use. It was a bottle in a bag every single night. It became being late for work, calling into work, drinking before, during, and after. I would drink in the car on the way. If I didn't have something, I was a complete mess. It really overtook my life. And, because I also still have all of these deep-rooted things that I was dealing with. And then I have added shame and stuff, and then the logic that I'm gonna have to stop doing drugs and alcohol once it starts, so I'm just gonna do as much as I want. And it was really, I feel really bad for my dad. I would ask him for rent every single month, and there was always something, some kind of chaotic reason why I needed rent, not just because I spent all my money on blow that month and couldn't pay for chaotic things that would happen, but I realize now in recovery, I had so much bad energy around me then that I would attract a lot of bad energy. And honestly, in these 15, almost 16 months, not too barely anything has happened to me, because I am my life isn't chaotic and I'm on point.
Totally. So let me just repeat back to make sure I got this right. What you're saying kind of happened was you woke up in jail, and then you had a feeling oh shit, the drugs are actually a problem and I do want help, so I choose drug court. But then you realize that there's a ton of work and it's going to be really scary, and drug court doesn't start right away, presumably because our justice system is broken and your right to a speedy trial isn't real. And so in the face of realizing you need to confront it, realizing it's an immense amount of work, you just went back to the thing that you knew.
Yeah, and I was last woohoo, and honestly, the court date kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So it ended up being a year and a half or so, and but like at the beginning of that, I expected to be much shorter. I was like, oh, 1 month, you know, and then it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It was so bad. It was really sad and really scary. So now I'm in drug court, and you have to check in every morning at 6 a.m. to see if you test or not. You have to go to 3 NA or AA meetings a week. At the very beginning, you have to go to a group every single, 5 days a week, 5 or 4. And I live in Fayetteville, and this is in Rogers. So I'm driving 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, and then 45 minutes to work. And so a lot of days I would be driving like 3-4 hours a day. And that was really hard. But honestly, like, I needed it. I needed almost to be reparented in a way. And like something to get my rear in gear. So like it turned into me like, because I had to be hyper vigilant and always check in at 6 a.m. I never pushed snooze. I haven't pushed snooze in so long.
6 a.m. every single day.
It's like between 6 and 8, but I would always do it at 6. And honestly, like my body would wake me up at 6, like after like the first month. And like, because like if you miss a drug test, you go to jail and you get in trouble and you get held back, and there's all these things. And so like to have all of these expectations with like a real punishment attached to it was really good for me. And so now I have routine. You know, I have all of these things that I'm required to do, so I have to be on point. And with all that also, like there's counseling, and I learned a lot of coping mechanisms and things that I can do when I'm feeling cravings. Because I was forced to be sober, it brought my brain chemistry down. At the beginning, I was taking a lot of naps in between, like the things that I needed to do, and then it just kind of slowly got a little bit better. I started realizing little things like wait to react. And, if you honestly, like if I show up to these things and I do what I need to be doing, I'm going to gain confidence in myself, and I'm going to start trusting myself, because that was like my biggest thing. Like I couldn't ever do what I said I was going to do. All these promises I made to myself, promises I made to others. And so I gained a lot of self-confidence being thrown into this thing. And honestly, not everyone has the luxury of being held accountable by the law. So if you're really struggling out there, I would really suggest getting arrested. Just kidding. Just kidding. But it really worked for me, and like it sucks that it had to come to that. But like honestly, it's the best thing I've ever had. Like I've ever had happen to me. I couldn't be more grateful, and it came at just the right moment, because honestly, like I could easily be dead right now. I've had, I think, almost 10 friends overdose from fentanyl lace blow. Like, it's really scary out there. Yeah. And I also, one of the biggest things I realized is that, like, I can be sober, and I thrive being sober. I kind of just needed something to help me get into that. And, like, if you sit with your emotions and you're fucking raw dog in life, like, you're going to become more resilient and stronger. And I've had some, like, big things happen that I was just like, thank God I'm sober, because I am, number one, able to handle this in a more level-headed way, and, like, know that I can handle, like, really big things that come up. And, like, I don't need to use to exist or to cope with, like, things. And I'm not naive enough to, or I'm not naive to where I think that, like, oh my God, I'm fixed, because, like, I'm going to be done with drug court in November, and I'm sure I'm going to be tested. I do know that, like, I have the tools and the self-confidence and the resilience to know that, like, I can survive. And, like, if like, say I do decide to drink again, I have, like, the knowledge of, like, knowing, like, okay, this is going not where I want it to go. So I'm kind of in this, like, weird mental place where, like, I know I can do it, but I'm also still being held accountable in a very real way. So I don't want to be naive. I also have a sponsor, love her, you know, and I have meetings that I really love going to. The NA meetings in Fayetteville are incredible. The people there are amazing. And so I have like a group of support there. My best friend is just so happened to be the one that I was doing cocaine with in COVID. She happens to be on the same journey as me, like becoming sober.
Hell yeah.
So there's definitely people in my life that I have to lean on, and really it is all about community. And like they always say, like people, places, and things. Like if you're trying to get sober, it's like really hard to stay sober when you're surrounded by like the same environment and the same things and like the same triggers and whatnot.
Yeah, totally. So it sounds like drug court, the accountability that comes with drug court is like a really, really strong motivator. And then that coupled with like the community building through meetings and also things that you learned at therapy. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Like now being mentally clear, I am able to implement like all those things I learned over the years. And one of the biggest things, Dr. Nicole Lepore, I think that's how you pronounce it. She's the holistic psychologist on Instagram. She's written How to Do the Work and some really other great books. But she said that like one of the biggest things about getting out of depression is gaining trust in yourself and confidence. And she was like, literally set the tiniest goals for yourself. If you set big goals and you don't reach them, you're going to become more depressed. So like set your alarm like 5 minutes earlier, only push snooze 3 times, you know, like these like really attainable goals. Maybe sit up whenever your alarm goes off, like really easy things. And the more you start to do that, you can kind of make it, you know, a tiny bit more challenging. And like the more that you reach these small goals, the more you're going to start to like trust yourself. And that was like one of the big things that I really implemented. Like obviously like I had to be up really early and I had to be there, so that was there. But then it was like the rest of my day of like, you know, gotta do chores, you gotta live your life, you gotta like exist, you gotta be a human being. And it was a lot of the things that she said, and that really helped me like become a better person and like not necessarily a better person, but like a better human, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Setting like simple, achievable goals is awesome for confidence building. Mm-hmm. And then you get to like watch yourself succeed instead of, you're exactly right, like setting yourself up for failure by trying to do something too big. And I love little stuff like fucking drink a glass of water and then be like, that was awesome. I just took care of my body, you know, like, and celebrate yourself when you're doing something good for yourself, celebrating yourself. I'm curious if you had cravings or difficult situations like throughout drug court, and then if the coping skill of like, I don't want to go back to jail was like what did it for you, or like what you did when challenges came up.
So definitely, I mean, of course, I had the logic there that using and drinking were out of the question, because I did not want to go to jail and I didn't want to go in trouble because I'm a people pleaser, but also, for my life, I'm trying to, get my life together. But when moments like that would come up, I would replay the tape and I would go through all the moments that brought me there and how like seriously unmanageable my life was and how sad I was, and honestly how truly happy I am now. And like I have a very reasonable amount of anxiety, like a normal healthy amount. And I haven't had a bout of depression. And like I felt so good in the beginning. And they say that like you have like this high of being like, whoa. And then once that kind of subsides, then it's like, that's when you really get into the nitty gritty. And so like there was lots of things that I would do. I would definitely like try to change my mindset. Especially like if I was harping on something in my mind, I would make myself busy. I would listen to a podcast. I would watch a show, like try to, just get my thought process off of ruminating. If I had a really challenging situation and something that I needed to like bring up with a partner or a friend or something, I would word vomit it into like my notes app and then wait and then revisit it. And honestly, I hate to say this because I hate AI, but like there's been a couple times that I have like said all the things in ChatGPT and they've been like, wow, that seems really hard. And then given me like solid advice on how to bring things up in a level-headed way that someone will listen to me. And I'm like, okay, it's cool, but I use it sparingly because water. Anyways, so a lot of that, going to meetings and also the counseling that I received was really good too. And I think the biggest thing was like knowing in my mind that like if I go back there, like I will not be able to achieve these goals. I want to have kids. I want to have like a healthy relationship. I want to exist now. I didn't really want to exist before. I had no like real true hope. I had no want or need for anything. And now that I'm like in this clear headspace, I'm like, okay, this is attainable. I can literally do whatever I want to do. And as horrible as this world is, like I can, still find joy in like little things for sure.
That's awesome. It's like a whole just like cluster of super helpful like emotional skills or whatever. Like it's really cool that you're able to get like good counseling and have all of that stuff in your back pocket for when like a craving or something comes up. Mm-hmm. Does your brain ever fight you on it and be like, what's going to be different this time? We'll just keep it together. We can do, you know what I mean? Like, do you ever have that come up?
I have to argue with myself for sure. I'm like, no, shut up, because your thoughts are not true. Just because your brain says it doesn't mean it's a real thing. And I'm like, no, shut up. Like, stupid bitch. Like, what's going to happen. So it's like, I have to do a lot of that. I have to do a lot of logic with my brain. And I do often have arguments for sure. I've definitely thought about like, well, I could maybe do kratom when I'm cramping or something. And I'm just like, oh God, that's a slippery slope though. Mm-hmm. So I still do like worry about that. And sometimes I wonder like maybe am I going to be able to try it and logically be like, okay, this is working for me or this isn't working for me, or can I only use it medicinally? And, I haven't had a relapse in recovery, and usually people do. So I am just like trying to strengthen myself as much as possible, because I think the main thing that brought me to addiction was like no coping mechanisms, which I have gained, thank God, for Instagram and counseling and like friends and stuff like that. And not being a viable human. And now that I could do that, I hopefully like can either not like ever have a beer again and be fine, or maybe I can have a beer and like be okay. But I don't know. I have to be realistic about it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just grateful that I have these tools, and honestly, thank God for like drug court. Like it's the fact that we have that resource is really cool, and it gives people a second chance.
And it's amazing to hear that like something in our freaking government and judicial system is helpful.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I never really got in trouble for drugs. Mostly my life fell apart like because of drinking, so I never had any like court stuff that had to do with drugs. So I didn't have experience with drug court. So I just like my trust of the government is like zero. And when I start to like know people that went through drug court and hear like quite a few people be like, oh, it's good and helpful for me. And I'm like, really? So like, I'm super curious about hearing people's stories and experiences with
Have you heard others?
Something. Yeah, a couple of other people.
Awesome.
I mean, some people are like, they're really hard on you or whatever, but I'm like,
we need that.
Yeah.
Like I needed it. Mm-hmm. I can't speak for everyone, of course, but like I really needed it. I needed help, and I wasn't going to do it myself. There's no way, like either getting pregnant or going to jail, I figured were like the two things that were going to change my life.
What is your plan for when drug court ends?
So I think about this all the time. I've been working the steps, and I in NA, and I like that has like really helped me and opened up my eyes to like the real true potential of the program. So I'm going to continue to do that. I have my sponsor. I'm not very like vigilant with calling her because I haven't necessarily like needed to, because I've always gotten myself out of like, you know, sticky thought processes and whatnot. And so, you know, I have her number. We're close, so I will call her if I really need to. My partner's really supportive. I also like, you know, there's always like meetings I can go to. I have really good friends in drug court that I can call. There's like, and then also just like staying away from my, you know, neighborhood drug dens. I think that will help for sure. And because like one of my biggest things was going to concerts, and I'd never been to one sober before, and I work at the AMP. Love it, but I have attended many concerts and had so much fun. So I think like keeping that thought process of like, your life was shit before, it's great now, do not mess it up. Like you can be so happy. You don't need drugs. You don't need alcohol. You're fine. Like, you're great, even literally better than I've ever been. So I have like, and I have this like 5 and 5. There are like 5 people you can call and 5 things you can do to get your mind off of like a loop.
What are your 5 things you can do?
So, okay.
Knuckle crack.
Literally. I would call my best friend Kirby or my partner Eddie. Shout out, love you guys. And I, you know, like if I'm alone, I have like amazing podcasts. I love Armchair Expert. Dax has been in recovery for 19 years, but also that just always seems to come up in conversation, but it's also just a really great podcast. And there's many others. Taking a nap. Something as simple as that, or like watching a show. Those are simple things. Going outside, making myself busy. I think, was that more than 5 or was that 5?
Whatever, keep it up.
Keep it going.
Tell me what helps you.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so people, and then little self-care things that I can do. Like I do will get my mind off of things. I think it's really like just disrupting that thought process and doing something else is like probably my biggest thing. And sometimes that means disassociating in like a show or a podcast or something, or taking a nap, and that's okay. And I've given myself a lot of grace to recover how I want, or how I need, and honestly to exist. And oh my God, and then like going to the river. It's the best, but it's about to be wintertime.
The river's cute in the wintertime. You just maybe don't want to get in it.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. I don't know. People be polar plunging. Not me.
Could be me.
Are you still talking to a therapist, and have you like gotten to like address the core wounding of the issues of your childhood?
Definitely. I haven't talked to my counselor or therapist in like a month, but I'm going to be hitting her up soon. So yeah, like we've talked about a lot about that type of thing, and also just like a lot of the self-therapy that I've done has really helped me process it. I also, like, you know, my best friend has been through a lot of the same things, and like I think opening up communication about it is like probably like the biggest first step that you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a therapist. It could be in so many other ways. Also being able to talk to my brothers about it, because their experience was a lot different than mine. And, you know, they're always like, I don't know why you resent Mom so much. And I'm like, well, you were there, but you were a larva. So, oh, and I will add that, like, I still have a lot of resentments about my mom, but I accept her for who she is. And I honestly, I understand why she is the way she is. She still just irks the fuck out of me sometimes. But my dad, sometime in my 20s, he was like, God told me that if I keep being hard on you, I'm going to lose you. And that man changed with me so much. He became so loving and understanding. And like, honestly, like we haven't had a fight since. And wow. I like thank him so much for that. And, you know, it's kind of, I feel kind of bad in a way, but my mom's like, you're just so close with your dad. And I'm like, yeah, but he apologized and he acknowledged it. And we have wonderful conversations about like my life and stuff, and it's never judgmental. My mom is very, very judgmental if it's not like what she thinks how things should go. And that's still really hard for me, but I think in therapy I've learned that like she is who she is. She did the best that she can. She was going through a lot, and she's just that type of person, and I deeply love her besides all of those things. And you know, I don't have to be tied to my family or my parents. Like, we don't have the same political views. We don't have a lot of the same views. But that, I don't have to, like, identify with that anymore. Like, I'm going to make my own life and, like, my own road and my own identity.
Yeah. That sounds like an amazing path of healing and, like, finding a middle way, you know?
That's just so necessary.
Totally. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to get to? Let's check the list.
I think one of the biggest things of like not really living your life as you're supposed to, like it's like almost like every time you lie, every time you manipulate, every time you break a promise to yourself, it kind of like darkens your spirit, and then it becomes like a darker and darker hole, and it's really hard to get out of that. And like, as quote unquote spiritual as I was, I never really felt whole. It wasn't until I really started to be a good, genuine person in like every way. Not that I was a bad person, you know, I just had like, you know, character defects that held me back, and, you know, being an addict and stuff that really changes who you are as a person. Then I, like, once I started really like doing what I needed to do, being a woman of my word, and like, you know, never not manipulating people to get drugs and stuff like that, then I could really start like building my spirit. And that was when I really started to feel okay about myself. And honestly, it started with like getting clean, and that was like the first biggest step, because I could never do that with such like these heavy energies over me. So it's really just kind of like the biggest stepping stone that I could take, really. Let's see, what else did I write down? Of course, I wrote it so sloppy. So I write like a fourth grader.
Read your own handwriting.
Let's see. I think I got a lot of it. Yep. I feel pretty good.
It's like you know your own life.
Yeah, I know, right?
Cool. Well, there's two questions I usually end the show with, and one is, what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
It is a symptom. It can be a result of trauma, society, honestly, mental illness, and I think that we should have a lot of compassion for people in addiction. And God, can we get some more resources? Like, drug court can't be the only one. So I just want people to have empathy and, like, I don't know, because I feel like people in addiction, especially like unhoused people, can get a lot of judgment, and honestly, nowadays, no help at all. It's really, really sad.
Let's freaking destigmatize this shit.
Right.
People with addictions are in pain. They're not selfish.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish that we could give resources to help them know that too, because it wasn't right away that I realized, like, oh, I'm an addict because I'm fucking sad, and I have all these heavy emotions and all of these things that I do that make my life really hard, and I'm just really just trying to cope or like have a good time. Yeah,
for sure. If you could talk to someone who's like in their darkest days of their addiction, what would you say to them?
I would say literally just like hold on a little longer. That's all I kept telling myself, was like, just keep going and try as best as you can to like work on acknowledging and maybe even just talking about like the really hard things that you went through when you were young, and like it's okay. And everybody has like really hard things that they went through, but a lot of addicts are like really sensitive and very emotional beings, and we didn't get the tools that we need to deal with those things in like a healthy way. And it's kind of, I don't know, I think like there's resources out there. There's books that you could read, or even like fucking Instagram that can help you get information on how to like cope with those things if you don't want to like straight up go to a therapist, because that's really hard too.
Yeah, hang in there a little longer.
Just a little longer.
There's something better right around the corner.
Yeah, and the world is scary, but like you can make it great.
Yeah, and if the two of us in this room can recover, you can do it too.
Right.
All right. Well, nice to talk to you today.
Yes,
I appreciate
you
your
too.
time.
Thank you so much.
Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Pettit made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.